Aloha, and welcome to Returning to the Aina. My name's Timothy Reese, and I'll be your guide on this journey. In this week's episode, we're going to follow up with some of our natural farming products that we created. We're also going to talk about maintenance. Ehele mai, nani loa ke la ai. So beautiful that. Aloha. So here we have the lactobacillus serum that we started in last week's episode. This was the poi water and the rice wash water. It's been 4 days. This one, we're looking for a sour sweet smell, and this one smells nice. This one smells like it might have gone a little far. If you look closely, what I have is in this jar is there's 3 layers. There's a layer on the top, which is kind of the funk, and then the middle layer, which is what we're looking for, and the sediment at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and skim the funk off of the top and try to get as much of that middle layer out as I possibly can. Okay, so there's roughly 150 milliliters of the serum that I got out of the rice wash, and I tried to use this measuring cup to slowly scoop out the middle portion, the serum, but it started to stir up the bottom as I was doing that. I was able to skim the top relatively easily, but I think on the poi water, I'm just going to pour off the middle section, keeping an eye on the sediment on the bottom to make sure that doesn't get in there. And if it gets in there a little bit, it's okay, I'm sure. This is a half-gallon mason jar or ball jar, and luckily for me, there is increments in milliliters on the side, and up here is 1500, which is 10 times 150. So I'm going to fill this up, 1500 with milk, almost a half gallon, and then I'm going to dump that inside there. And then I'm going to add the lactobacillus extract or serum. Cover it with a cloth. Actually, this is not a cloth. This is a piece of paper. This is a paper towel and a rubber band. That should be about it. So to process this, I'm going to have to remove the curds on the top because we really just want this center liquid. There's some sediment on the bottom. We don't really want that. We really want this middle section here. So I have a strainer bag and a funnel here. And this was a nut milk bag is what it was called at the health food store. So I'm going to try to extract the curds out of here. They do recommend using a wide mouth jar like this, and this is probably the reason why, because it's going to be kind of tough with this really narrow. This is a wide mouth jar, but it's still narrow. Too narrow for me to put my hand in there, so I'm going to attempt to remove it using a spoon with some holes in it to leave the liquid behind. Take just the solids and a knife, so I'll cut it into pieces with the knife and then try to extract the curds. Oh, it's firm curds on the top. Cottage cheese mass. We don't want to stir the curds up into the whey serum beneath. So I'm trying to be careful with that. Let's see. A wide mouth jar would make this much easier. Okay, so that's a bulk of it. And now I'm going to pour this off really slowly through this. As you can see, the liquid's kind of draining out of the curds. This is kind of cool, and one of the really cool things about the Korean natural farming method, or this natural farming method, is these curds can actually be converted into a cheese. So I'm going to try that tonight. We'll press out the fluid out of the curds and cook it with some salt and then cool it, and I'll let you know how that turns out. So I'm going to pour this very slowly, keeping an eye on the sediment at the bottom. Smells like yogurt. So I think that is the finished product. That looks kind of foamy. It looks really alive. So this is ready to use. This is 1000 to 1. But because I don't foresee using that much immediately, I want to store some of this on the shelf. I want to be able to tuck it away. If I was going to use this in the near future, then all I'd need to do is cover this with a paper towel. This is the lid for a smaller jar. It has the insert inside. Take the insert out, paper towel on top, twist it down, and you can store that in the refrigerator. That will cool down the bacteria and slow its activity down. But to store it, what this guy recommends, Chris Trump on YouTube, is to mix 1 part of this serum to 1 part sugar, and that will make it shelf stable. So I have a scale right here, and I'm going to do it by weight. It's 1 pound, 1 ounce of fluid, so I'm looking for 2 pounds, 2 ounces lactobacillus serum and 1 part sugar. And this has a sealed cap, because one of the benefits of this serum is it's supposed to kill odors, whether they're like animal odors, kitty litter boxes, pig pens, hunting dogs, funky sink drains. It's a beneficial bacteria that will overwhelm those not so nice anaerobic bacteria that cause that stinky smell. Yeah, fermented plant juice made with comfrey leaves. I think this is about ready to extract the liquids. In looking at it, I noticed that there were some air pockets, I was wondering here, that were forming inside this container. And in my past experiences, you don't want air in with the fermentation. So when I noticed that, I was a little concerned, because after I extract the juice from this, I want to use the residue, leftover plant matter, the sugar and things like that, to make a vinegar. So if that turns funky in there because I didn't notice those air pockets, then the vinegar process may not work. So once again, I have another strainer here in the funnel, and a half-gallon jar. I'm not sure how much liquid is going to come out of here. So regarding the fermented plant juice process, the guys who do this recommend that you harvest the plant that you're going to convert into this fertilizer or juice. You harvest that plant in the morning, early morning, when it still has dew on it. They have their reasons. They talk about the highest nutrient content and whatnot, but I did not do that with the comfrey that I used. I actually harvested it the day before, and the next day is when I processed it. So it might have lost, most likely it lost the water volume along the way. I did keep it in a bucket of water, like cut flowers, like you would cut flowers, hoping to limit the amount of water loss, but I suspect something like that happened. There's not a ton of liquid in here. Another thing that I did in preparing this is I had pushed the comfrey down. I had kind of packed it down, and I don't think I should have done that. I think I should have left it fluffy. It would have compacted down on its own, and because I had pushed it down, that might have created those air pockets inside there. Whereas if I left it fluffy and let the natural process settle it down, that air might have escaped and there would be no voids in there. So learning lesson, and next time I make this with other plants or even with comfrey, I will not be packing it down. I have never done these processes. I've never made these products. I am very excited to be making these products because there's a number of benefits to these. First of all, it's going to save me money. It's going to save me money in fertilizer. Fertilizers they can be very expensive, and if you grow plants, it's a necessity unless you're making your own fertilizer, unless you've already taken the steps to build your own soil, your healthy, delicious soil. Some of the other benefits, I purchase a lot of granular fertilizers, all-purpose, bone meal for the phosphorus. Those granular fertilizers, not all of that fertilizer is readily available to the plant, meaning that the plant cannot utilize 100% of those granules that I'm throwing down. In this liquid form, it becomes readily available to the plant. So I'm really excited about making these products, and this is actually going to become a regular part of my routine. It's kind of exciting change in my lifestyle, but it's for the better. This natural farming process is really a zero waste process. And another interesting thing about this is I'm totally confident this is what our kupuna, not just my kupuna of the Kanaka Maoli ethnicity, my kupuna from Sicily, my kupuna from the Philippines, my kupuna from China, and from Europe. This was part of where we come from and the lifestyle. I have no doubt. The curds from the lactobacillus making cheese, this making the vinegar, and for some reason we've lost this along the way. So it's very comforting to be doing this because it feels like Ike Kupuna, generational knowledge that's been handed down, it's being restored. So enough of that. So I'm going to try to pour this off. There's liquid in there, but there's not a ton. So I don't know how well it's going to pour. And I'm going to scrape the rest in here, and then I'll put the solids into one of these jars. I think I'm going to end up using this one, and we'll talk about making the vinegar. But we're going to see what we got out of all that comfrey. It was quite a bit of leaves. Straight up. Make sure this doesn't pop off. It doesn't smell bad. It smells like lawn clippings. Almost spinach-like. And it should not smell bad because of the fermentation. So I'm going to just let that sit and drain off. I don't want to make the vinegar in this container because this is the only one that I have. All the stuff coming out. So I'm wringing this out. It's kind of deceiving because it didn't look like there was much juice in there, but I suspected there was more than it looked like. And there it is. And this nut milk bag is a really good quality material. You can probably blow this thing out if you put too much force on it, so you don't want to, when I say blow it out, rip the seams on it. You probably don't want to squeeze it too much, so I'm about ready to call this good. I got a good amount of extract out of there. Okay, so we just completed extracting our comfrey fermented plant juice. Super exciting. It's about 500 milliliters of FPJ, fermented plant juice, made from comfrey leaves. What this guy, Chris Trump, recommends is to make vinegar, you add double the amount of your finished product that was extracted from the solids. So the solids and the leftover sugar that's all inside here, if added to this, it should produce vinegar. But one of the things that it is good at is cleaning. As you make these products, the sugar, you don't want the ants zeroing in on your lactobacillus or your FPJ and some of the other products that they make. So vinegar, wiping down the container with vinegar is a good way. There's also another type of fertilizer that can be made using vinegar, and there's probably quite a few of them actually. So vinegar is acidic, and there is a calcium fertilizer that can be made from eggshells in vinegar. So this vinegar, that's actually what I'm hoping to do, will be used to make a calcium fertilizer. I'll just make a big batch of some hard-boiled eggs and make some deviled egg sandwiches or something, and use those shells to make a calcium fertilizer. I probably just want to push them down beneath the surface of the water, and what he recommends is for this to be in a dark place. So I'm actually going to put it in a closet over there, and roughly in 3 months there will be vinegar inside here. If you happen to have any organic vinegars that have the mother still in them, Bragg's apple cider vinegar is one that comes to mind that I've used and do use, but it has sediment at the bottom. If you take a little bit of that and add it to it, it will kickstart the process, and within about a month's time you'll have vinegar. Just to finish this up, I will push these solids down into the water, and you can see the water has already changed color because of the sugar and the remaining FPJ in there. When pieces of the organic matter stick out of the water, they can be susceptible to other bacterias, and in some of the fermentation processes of foods, it's really important that you make sure that the solids are not sticking out of the water. So there's paper towel. We'll check back in 3 months.